Welcome to Bible Stories with Activities. Today's Gospel reading for the first Sunday of Advent comes from the Gospel according to Luke.
Jesus said to his disciples, "There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth nations will be in dismay, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will die of fright in anticipation of what is coming upon the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But when these signs begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, because your redemption is at hand. Beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness and the anxieties of daily life, and that day catch you by surprise like a trap. For that day will assault everyone who lives on the face of the earth. Be vigilant at all times and pray that you have the strength to escape the tribulations that are imminent and to stand before the Son of Man."
In today's Gospel reading, we hear Jesus telling his disciples about all the different signs that will appear at the end of time. And he tells them, do not get caught unprepared, to make sure that you are prepared, that you are watchful, that your heart does not get drowsy, that you are prepared for Jesus' second coming. And Advent calls us to prepare our hearts and prepare ourselves for Jesus' second coming. So as we begin the journey of Advent over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be preparing ourselves each week more and more for Jesus, for the anticipation of his second coming. And we're specifically also preparing for Christmas, for the birth of Jesus. So how can we prepare for Jesus? How are we going to be watchful? How are we going to keep our hearts from being drowsy? How are we going to be prepared for Jesus so that one day we can stand before him? So I want you to think about that today as we do our activity.
The materials that you will need for today's activity are your nativity figurines, a box with a removable lid, and tissue paper.
All right, now that you have your materials, let's get started.
Each day of the first week of Advent, you will wrap a different nativity figurine for your children to open and discuss what you can learn about each figurine. So for instance, on the first day, you might wrap a shepherd and wrap him up in the tissue paper, put him in your box, and place him somewhere where your children can open him, and then talk about how maybe from a shepherd you can learn about watchfulness and looking for Christ. You can then on your next day wrap a sheep. And as you wrap the sheep, have your children unwrap them, and then discuss how from a sheep maybe you can learn about following the shepherd, so following Jesus, the Good Shepherd. You can then wrap your wise men, and as your children unwrap the wise men, talk to them about, like the wise men, you can learn to allow yourself to be guided by God. And then you can wrap your donkey, and when your children unwrap the donkey, you can talk about how from the donkey you can learn about obedience, because the donkey walked all the way to Bethlehem and listened to Joseph and Mary. And then you can wrap Joseph, and when your children unwrap Joseph, you can talk about from Joseph you can learn about faith and believing in the Lord and in his word. He believed what the angel Gabriel told him and believed and trusted in God. And then when you wrap Mary and your children unwrap Mary, you can talk about how from Mary you learn to trust in the will of God with all your heart. And then on Christmas Day, you will wrap baby Jesus. So you hold off on baby Jesus until Christmas Day. And then when your children open him on Christmas Day, you can talk about how Jesus is the best gift ever. And from Jesus, we can learn to see Christ in everyone. We can learn to forgive others. We can learn to strive for holiness and learn just so much from Jesus, and that he truly is the best gift and the greatest gift given to us on Christmas.
I hope you and your family have a wonderful time unwrapping each figurine of your nativity set. And as you unwrap each person and each animal, I hope you have some wonderful conversations about what you can learn from each person and animal that's present at the nativity. So I hope you and your family have a wonderful start to Advent, and thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week.